Hey everyone, welcome back to another Cultivated Culture success story. I have Paula Jackler here, and she is the Director of Commercial and Network Marketing at Talkspace. Paula, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. And the pleasure is all mine. And I'm really excited to share your story because it has been a bit of a roller coaster. So, if we rewind all the way back, I'll just give a quick synopsis. But you and I caught up for a drink. You were in New Jersey, I was in New York. We got connected through the email list. And at the time, you were doing SEO and you kind of wanted to make a shift. You wanted to stay in digital, but you wanted to work for a company that had a little bit more of a cause, like a humanitarian cause behind it, right? But you also didn't want to go to a nonprofit where it's tough to move up the ladder, salaries are lower, etc. So we had to find a company where you could do digital. There was a humanitarian cause, but they were also making money. You know, they were trying to be profitable, and that was the goal. And we did find you that, but then it didn't last as long as you might have hoped, right? And so you got an email that basically told you, hey, your last day is on Friday because the funding ran out, and you were kind of stuck back in square one. But then a couple weeks later, leveraging some of the tools and strategies here, doing some outreach, also getting some leads generated from your resume, your LinkedIn profile, et cetera, you were able to land a job just 3 weeks, roughly 3 to 4 weeks after you got that notice. So that is a crazy story. And I'm really excited to have you share it because I think a lot of people have been in a situation where they get some unexpected news from the company and they have to make a pivot. But also you, for the first job, I know you basically took my strategies and played them to a T, and it worked out pretty well. So let's go all the way back to the beginning of that. Give us a little bit of background on you, where you're from, kind of what you did, and then kind of lead us into that SEO role that you were in.
Okay, awesome. So I am originally from Brazil. I moved here 7 years ago on a study abroad program. And then I fell in love with New York City and I decided that I wanted to stay here for good.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then I had to figure out how to make that happen, right? And at the time when I moved here was when Alicia Keys' song was like all over the place, saying like, if you make it here, you can make it anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided that I was going to try and make it here because then I could choose like whatever I wanted to do. So the process wasn't that easy, right? For me to stay here legally, I had to get a student visa. So I went back to a community college and then I applied to business school. Just to maintain my visa. And when I was in business school, that's when I came across corporate social responsibility. And that's when I fell in love with humanitarian causes and actually using profit for a greater good. And at the time, everybody told me like it's not possible for you to get a job in that field.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have enough experience, you don't know a lot of people, but I knew that I wanted to do something that actually helps other people and helps to make the planet a better place. So I kept that in the back of my mind. Right after business school, I actually got an offer through referrals to an SEO agency in northern New Jersey, and I was a content strategist there. And it was a very good experience. I learned a ton from the owner of the agency, and I was growing like professionally. But again, like inside of me, I really wanted to do something that added value to people who actually needed. And that's when I came across your content. Being honest with you, I still don't remember how I signed up for the list, but I remember that every Monday morning, I would get this email and I was like, you know what? I actually can make this. I can make the leap. I just need a little bit of courage and being smart. And I don't recall, and I don't know if you remember either, like there was one particular email you sent that's when I reached out to you and I was like, this touched me. Let's connect. And that's when we met each other. So when we met each other, you were so wonderful and you were telling me that I could do whatever I wanted to do as long as I planned for it. And I remember that. Like there's a framework, there are a couple of things that you can do, certain steps you can follow to make that leap. And I followed your advice and I went online and I started looking for social enterprises, like companies that are profitable, but they use part of the revenue to help social and sustainable causes. And I came across a company on Instagram, and I was just in love. So the whole premise of the company was they would sell a water bottle, and for every bottle you bought, you would give 5 years of clean water to a person in Africa. And being from Brazil and having grown up in Brazil in the 90s, clean water is something that it's like near and dear to my heart. And I was like, that's it. That's what I want to do. I want to connect with them. I want to join them, and I want to bring clean water to people who actually need it. So, using your advice, I reached out to the CEO of the company, and I was not asking for a job. I was just saying, hey, I came across your profile on an Instagram. Clean water is really a topic that I love. So I would love to talk to you more about it. I gave him a little bit of my background too. I told him that I was from Brazil, that I was working for an SEO company, but that I wanted to do marketing for the greater good. And he replied to me. So he replied to me, and we started like hanging out, and we would talk about the business, and I started giving them a lot of valuable advice. So for example, they weren't tracking anything on social media. Like they didn't know what metrics to track. Their Google Analytics wasn't set up. So I started helping them out with that without saying like I want a job or anything. It was really because I was passionate about the cause and the mission. And that happened, I think that was like 6 months that we kept on talking to each other. And whenever I saw him, I gave him tips. And I created a whole digital marketing project for them. And then one day when I was like, you know what, I actually want to leave my job and I'm going to start looking for jobs at a social enterprise. He was the first one who said, wait, if you're going somewhere, like join us. And that's pretty much what happened. So the job that I landed wasn't advertised anywhere. It was like pretty much tailored for me and my skills. And that we like in some of your content, you talk about that, like 75% of the jobs are not even like advertised online. And that's exactly what happened. So like maybe there were other people that could have done the job. I would have applied for the job, but they didn't even know that was like a possibility. So yeah, so that's like the first part of the story, and that's how I landed the job.
Awesome. Yeah, I love it because that's the exact attitude that you want to have. You ended up with a job at the company, which fulfilled all the criteria you wanted before. But then shortly after joining, there was a little bit of a hiccup, right? So
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, I always joke that like my life is a Mexican soap opera. There's always like not drama, but like it's there's never a dull moment. So what happened? I was really happy. I landed the job. I started working on a few things. It was my first time on a fast growing startup. So it was really like growth on steroids. And I was a growth marketer. So that was my job, right? So, and I loved it. And I think for me, one of the things, like when you're in the social innovation space, you can actually like right away see your impact. So I knew that if I was doing a paid social campaign that sold 100 bottles, that is 500 years like worth of clean water somewhere. So that was like a good motivator. But what happened was last December, I went on vacation. And then when I came back was like Christmas Day. And then that following day was Boxing Day. So because they're a British company, we observed it. So on that Tuesday, he reached out to me and said, hey, we have to talk. Are you available? Yes, I'm available. Let's talk. So we're having cash problems, and I'm not going to be able to afford you and the rest of the team in the upcoming year. So your last day is Friday. And I was like, what? Like, so I'm going to be completely honest. And I was honest with them too. My first reaction was like, I was angry as hell, you know,
Sure.
Because cash problems, like it's not something that happens overnight. You see it coming, right? So my first reaction was like, I just went on vacation for 2 weeks. You knew you wouldn't be able to afford me. Why didn't you at least told me before my vacation? You know, like I would have saved the money. I would have had the time to look for another job. I can't find another job in 4 days. So my first instinct was like, I was really angry. And then I was also disappointed in myself because I had a very good job before that. and I left everything to do like good for the world. And why? Like, why did I take this risk? I had a stable job. I was making a decent amount of money. Why did I just like threw everything up just because I wanted to find a job like helping people? So I was really blaming myself. And what happened was now I'm kind of like a pro on doing like cold emailing people. So I came across the Instagram of another woman. She's the director of partnerships at Tumblr, and she's also Brazilian. So I reached out to her and I was like, here's what happened. I left my stable job, found this job at a startup, and I am getting laid off. And like, why? Like, what do I do? Where do I go from here? It took me 6 to 8 months to find this job. Like, if I start the process right now, what's going to happen? So I was freaking out. Um, and she told me something that was like the best advice. It was like, don't you ever be afraid of taking risks again. That's why they're risks. Like sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, but you have to keep on taking risks. And I was like, you know what? Fine. So I'll do it. So my looking for a job the second time was a little bit different because I was on a time crunch, right? I did not have 6 months available to create a relationship and gain their trust and bring value. Like I needed a job ASAP. So my first reaction was I reached out to all of my mentors and some peers, like people that I trust. And I told them, like, here's what happened. The company didn't work out. I need a job. So they sent my resume to a few places. And then via LinkedIn, I was looking for jobs. And I was really, because of my SEO experience, I was kind of like getting a pro into like optimizing my application and using the right keywords.
Mm-hmm.
So that worked. Like, and I would say, like, I would never encourage anybody to look for a job online. But if something happens and you absolutely have to,
Yep.
always use the keywords that they're saying, like on their job description. So I got a lot of offers to go back to the agency side and do more SEO. And I actually I got an offer from a very reputable agency in New York City. But that all happened in 2 weeks. I would say like 17 days tops. So it's my looking for jobs, talking to mentors, talking to peers, going to phone interviews, going to an in-person interview. And then a recruiter showed up and she was like, your experience is amazing. There's a company that I think you would really fit in, and it's Talkspace. So do you want to go for an interview? And I was like, sure. Yeah. So, and that I was very far along in the recruiting process on the SEO agency. So I had already done a phone interview, a test, an in-person interview. So I needed just one more in-person interview, but I was like, I like what Talkspace is doing. Let me go check it out. And then they made an offer. And then I had two offers. One for the SEO side, and it's something that I was really comfortable doing. I can do SEO with my eyes closed, right? And then I have this offer for a very high position at a fast growing startup. I have never done anything related to healthcare. So, and that's when that advice of don't be afraid of taking risks came into place. So I went back to them and said, hey, I have an offer from this SEO agency and they're offering me X amount of money. Mm-hmm. And they literally said, no, we want you. So they made a counter offer and I ended up making a lot more money than I would have otherwise.
Awesome.
Yeah. And it is a very challenging position that helps me grow every day. I know on the SEO side, I would have been not as challenged. I would be on my comfort zone and I would just plateau for a while. So now I actually every day I'm pushed out of my comfort zone and I'm growing.
Awesome. That's incredible. And this is one of my favorite stories because one of the reasons that I started the site in general and made it different from a lot of the other recruiting will help place you type of companies is that once you learn the process, you can rinse and repeat forever for any job that you want. Or if you land in a similar situation where, you know, something happens, you're laid off, you're fired, whatever, you have the tools and you know exactly what you need to do in order to land something else quickly. 17 days might be a record. I think I think it might be. We'll have to double check. But Paula, thank you so much for sharing all this. Really appreciate all the knowledge you shared, telling everybody your story, and we will talk to you very soon. Take care.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.